Barbados was settled in the second millennium BC, and waves of people came to the island from 350 AD to the mid-13th century, but only stopped in the early 16th century for obvious reasons. Now, to the real history. The Portuguese were the first to find the island out of the Europeans, and a navigator named the island Os Barbados, meaning bearded ones. Frequent slave raiding missions by the Spanish Empire in the early 16th century led to a massive decline in the Amerindian, the latest settlers of the island, population, so that by 1541, a Spanish writer claimed they were uninhabited. The Amerindians were either captured for use as slaves by the Spanish, or fled to other, more easily defensible mountainous islands nearby. From about 1600 AD, the English, French, and Dutch began to found colonies in the North American mainland and the smaller islands of the West Indies. Although Spanish and Portuguese sailors had visited Barbados, the first English ship touched the island on May 14, 1625, and England was the first European nation to establish a lasting settlement there from 1627. England is commonly said to have made its initial claim to Barbados in 1625, although reportedly an earlier claim may have been made in 1620. Nonetheless, Barbados was claimed from 1625 in the name of King James I of England and Scotland. There were earlier English settlements in the Americas, like Jamestown in 1607, Bermuda in 1609, and the Plymouth colony in 1620, and several islands in the Leeward Islands were claimed by the English at about the same time as Barbados. St. Kitts in 1623, the island of Nevis in 1628, Montserrat in 1632, and Antigua. Nevertheless, the colony of Barbados quickly grew to become the third major English settlement in the entirety of the Americas due to its prime eastern location. A few British people had claims and full control over the island, often switching hands between certain citizens, but it was still mainly under the rule of the British monarchy. The English Civil War did impact Barbados a bit, albeit not being in the war, but royalists controlled the island, keeping it under the government's rule. The island of Barbados was mainly used for sugarcane plantations and became one of the biggest sugar industries in the entire world. Barbados was actually the most profitable place in the entire Caribbean, even being out Hispaniola. By 1660, Barbados generated more trade than all the English colonies combined. This remained so until it was eventually surpassed by geographically larger islands like Jamaica in 1713. But even so, the estimated value of the colony of Barbados in 1730 to 1731 was as much as £5.5 million. Bridgetown, the capital, was one of the three largest cities in English America, the other two being Boston, Massachusetts, and Port Royal, Jamaica. By 1700, the English West Indies produced 25,000 tons of sugar, compared to 20,000 for Brazil, 10,000 for the French islands, and 4,000 for the Dutch islands. This quickly replaced tobacco, which had been the island's main export. In 1816, the British abolished the slave trade, but only stopped slavery in 1833. And in 1816, enslaved people rose up in a rebellion, and Barbados was a big contributor to that. In 1884, the Barbados government sought to become a part of the Dominion of Canada, but was refused. In 1952, several Caribbean islands wanted greater autonomy from Britain, so they created the West Indies Federation, which included countries like Barbados, Jamaica, and Antigua Barbuda. But like all unions, that didn't last very long. And in 1966, Barbados got their full independence on November 30th. Barbados was a monarchy until in 2021, where they became a republic and elected a president. That is it for the history of Barbados. Now, time for some statistics. The Barbados population, modern day, is about 280,000 people. Their GDP is about 5.7 billion US dollars, and their GDP per capita is about 20,000 US dollars. And last but not least, their area is about 439 square kilometers. That is it for a simplified history of Barbados. Make sure to like and subscribe for the next ones.